Productions.
My goal is to piss off every human being, one person at a time. Now, I hate the government, but I love my country, meaning I love my fellow, like you guys, like the regular people that we interact with day to day. That is what I love about this country. The government, I don't think so, man. I think they're a bunch of satanic, most likely. I mean, until proven otherwise.
So the backdrop may be Freemasonic, but the average man who's working a 9-to-5, who's chasing the American dream, that whole that culture was built off of Christianity, in my opinion.
How long have they been saying white supremacy is the biggest threat to democracy, the biggest threat to America?
I believe that, generally speaking, the vast majority of the public are not critical thinkers. So now, all of a sudden, all anybody can talk about is the... And I'm looking around and I'm going, you guys are kind of...
Critical thinking is problem solving, and that's the problem with most people. Like when they say runs America, I argue back and I go, no, we created it. That's our proxy.
The biggest revelation that Q was born in Tel Aviv, not Langley. The entire mythology of Q, the idea of secret military patriots inside the U.S. government working to expose the deep state and save the children, was in fact a psychological pacification program, which, a lot of us call that, designed to keep the American right docile, disorganized, and permanently waiting. It's like people wake up, but what they wake up to is just another layer. So they kind of escape this inner bubble and they head out into the next one and they think that they found the truth. But the buck doesn't stop at flesh. The buck goes beyond that, and it's spiritual.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us fight and be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, heading the clouds and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. By then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is TopLobsta, the father of disinformation.
Hello.
Happy 4th of July. Look, you
Whatever.
wear a festive shirt. You're a
No.
terrible person.
I don't care. Honestly, I'm of the mindset that the 4th of July is like more and more is just demonic. Probably. 1776, if you add it up, it's like 7. I don't know. I'm not getting into numerology. We kicked that guy out the chat, but let's roll on. It was unfortunate.
Guys, somewhere around the 30-minute mark, we're going to be going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, where you can continue enjoying an ad-free experience, engaging in the live chat, and checking out 2 days of Bro Grove for $10. If you don't want to be a cheapo about it, you can go over to patreon.com and check out 12 hours of raw unedited footage of Brohemian Grove. It awaits you over there, plus our tremendous backlog. We've been chipping away at it, but I still think it's it's like... What? 19? Damn it, dude. Don't do that. Oh, God. It's...
That's what you guys will be paying for.
That's what you guys will be paying for. Anyway, guys, let's get into our guest. Joining us today is Sean Chris of the Kill the Mockingbirds podcast. Sean, for the audience who may not be familiar with you, before we get into the conversation, let everybody know where it is they can find you and what it is that you focus on.
You could go to killthemockingbirds.com, but not right now. Don't go there right now. It's being under construction. But you can, or Kill the Mockingbirds podcast on Instagram. Pretty much I touch all kinds of topics from news, conspiracy to paranormal, kind of dip into everything. I'm a natural skeptic. So I don't believe anything. I kind of piss off the flat earthers, then piss off the liberals, then piss off the Republicans. My goal is to piss off every human being, one person at a time.
That's interesting. Have you been? I feel like you and Top are kindred spirits in that way. Really, that's Top's main focus is how many can I make them all mad at me? I think maybe I can make them all mad at me.
I make them all mad, then I make them all happy, then I make them mad again. It's just a very fun way to fluctuate between life. You should be on Twitter. That's if you really want to make people mad. I mean, actually, I'm looking at David's thing here popped up about Indian people again. He's making people mad.
Oh yeah.
guy.
Well, I mean, I thought that was funny. It was what did I say? I said they're doing everything they can to avoid taking baths. they're practicing. And then I retweeted it and I said, actually, my mistake. I realized this is a street vendor / drink making tutorial.
Oh no. Oh
right,
my God.
I know what we set out today, Sean. We were going to talk about this voice of God technology, but I think we have to at least use 4th of July as a launching pad. And that is to say, what do you think when it comes to people who say that this is a Christian nation founded on Christian principles, when it seems to, me at least, and possibly the community of conspiracy theorists at large, that this is really a sort of a mystery school based country, right? We're talking Freemasons and OTO, whoever was doing their thing when they laid the foundations of this country. Those folks weren't Christians, as far as I can tell. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it starts out because a lot of people ask me like, oh man, you're always talking crap on the government and why do you support 4th of July? I said, first, it's my sister-in-law's birthday, so like we go big on it, you know what I mean? And especially right now this year, we're really going extra big because like, she's going through she has brain cancer. She's had it for a while. So we're like, no, we're gonna have a great time. Like, you know what I mean? We believe it in as like family time. Now, I hate the government, but I love my country, meaning I love my fellow, like you guys, like the regular people that we interact with day to day. That is what I love about this country. Now, I think there's a strong Christian hold of us. The government, I don't think so, man. Like, yeah, I think they're a bunch of satanic, most likely. I mean, until proven otherwise. And so far, the proof has shown me right.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at just the architecture, especially surrounding Washington, D.C., with your obelisk and everything, the layout of the streets are done in a pentagram. You have that visage of George Washington painted on the Capitol building roof, where he's effectively like deified, right? He's kind of got the as above, so below post going on, or pose rather, going on. So it's just interesting to me when people get all caught up in the idea. I'm not saying that, right now there's this big conversation. We have this like mayor who's pandering in a huge way. I don't know if you've seen the videos, Chris, but he's eating rice with his bare hands, which is like, in my opinion, it's inflammatory. It's meant to dig deeper these racial divides. It's meant to go viral. I don't think that guy genuinely eats. He's eating Chipotle. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's some traditional Indian meal that he's eating with his bare hands, but he's doing it in a way that's going to piss off, I don't know, virtually everybody. And people are going to feel passionate about it one way or the other. But the conversation becomes, well, we're letting in all these migrants and this is a Christian country. And it's like, and then the other side goes, well, no, it's not a Christian country. It's a Freemasonic country. And so it doesn't matter the whole racial aspect of it. I think it does to an extent. It feels like what happened was, sure, there was a Freemasonic foundation. The founders of this country were into something that was not, it wasn't what the general public had access to. They weren't privy to it, right? This is mystery school. But it does seem that as far as the general public goes, there was a real, genuine Christian foundation in the culture, at least. So the backdrop may be Freemasonic, but the average man who's working a 9-to-5, who's chasing the American dream, that whole that culture was built off of Christianity, in my opinion.
And in general too, I don't understand why like people argue so much about like the religious aspect, right? Like if you're Christian, like whatever, Buddhist, like all the core fundamentals is like, hey, just don't be nice to people, like treat them well. So it's like, why are we arguing about that? Like, yeah, we have different beliefs for sure. Like you can believe what you believe about Muhammad. I can believe what I believe about Jesus, and so on and so forth. Like there's no real bad about it. And actually I've noticed a lot of Muslims have like sided with Christians a lot because they, especially during this whole like LGBTQ movement stuff, like how out here in Michigan where I'm at in Dearborn, there's a lot big base, and they're like, oh, absolutely not, we're having that in our schools, and the Christians united with them because they had common ground. And I think there's a lot of similarities more than differences. So if we focus on the differences, of course, which I believe a lot of these politicians do, right? They go, let me pick out the part that makes us different and show it like, oh, they hate us because of this, and that's not true. And then what they do is they coach people into actually talking like that, right? How long have they been saying white supremacy is the biggest threat to democracy, the biggest threat to America? And now they're pushing it, and now we have this whole, and I know everybody thinks differently on this, but now we have this whole part of like the community that's like, oh, the did everything, and not like forgetting about the Freemasons, forgetting about the Jesuits, forgetting about like all these big mafias that have been around forever. But because they've pushed it, they've manifested into this like, yeah, maybe they're right, maybe it is all it's the fault, and you get sucked into it, and then they get to go, see, told you. So this whole time they're just planting the seeds so that we can go the way they want.
That's exactly what we've been talking about on this show to a great deal when it comes to the whole noticing thing. Is like, I believe that generally speaking, the vast majority of the public are not critical thinkers, and you could make a bunch of reasons as to why that is. You know, I think you can rest most of it on the fact that everybody's caught in the grind. Everybody's in the 9 to 5. Everybody's worried about raising their families. Everybody's worried about the debt that they're collecting. The school systems, the education systems are going through, trying to get this job. You know, the economy's in the shitter. There's too much to focus on. And then if you should even lift your head up and look around, well, the Mockingbird media has you covered. They're going to show you every war, every geopolitical conflict that they possibly can, every horror story. So you're really just inundated constantly with it's like a sensory overload. So a lot of people don't really have the opportunity to really look around with a critical eye and see what's going on. So if that is the case, which I believe it is the case, then how come all of a sudden we're in this massive noticing epidemic where everybody is this expert level noticer? And it's like, there was a time when that speech was suppressed, and I've been talking about this a lot, so I'm sure the audience is rolling their eyes, but it appears to me that the speech surrounding and their disproportionate influence in various American institutions and their government's influence in America's government, those notions were quelled. You weren't allowed to talk about that. You were, labeled or intolerant or racist or what have you. And that doesn't make the conversation go away. It just goes underground, and then it builds resentment. So people are saying it in spooky corners of the internet. They're not saying it on public platforms. They're not having the discussions in person at their own dinner table. And so that resentment builds, that pressure builds, and then Elon comes over, buys an app, and then signals all of a sudden that you're allowed to talk about these things. And because of that previous suppression, the backlash, the explosion from taking the lid off the pressure cooker is massive. So now all of a sudden, all anybody can talk about is and I'm looking around and I'm going, you guys are kind of, and also most of you haven't noticed what's been going on for the past decade or 2 decades or what have you. And you think that you just found the truth, which is something that conspiracy theorists, I think we all do a lot when we first wake up. Let's, to use a really expression, wake up. You end up you realize the official narrative you've been fed is not the truth, and then you fall for a bunch of on the way to the truth. You look at something and you go, well, that looks promising, and they just lied to me, so it must be this. And then you find out that that's not the case. You move on to the next thing. I think you got to fail at finding the truth consecutive times before that filter kind of refines itself, and you get better at, number one, not being so reactive, and number two, identifying what is real and what isn't real. And I think everybody right now is in those beginning stages. They woke up and now they're just grabbing on to whatever looks like the truth, and they've served us up a big steaming hot plate of noticing, and everybody's going, that must be it, that must be it. And I'm like, you got to fail a few more times before you even have, I don't know, a part in the conversation, in my opinion.
But even to go back to where you're talking about critical thinking, that goes back to school, right? So school, and I argue this all the time because at my work, I work in a warehouse, I do shipping, and the head managers and all them, they all have degrees and they think they're smarter than everybody, right? They have this above knowledge, but they don't know how to critically think. Why? Because they learn how to memorize. They learn to memorize things and not critically think. Why some of us that didn't go the right route or just like got forced into like having kids early or doing things and having to find alternative routes, we had to critically think because we couldn't fix things. Critical thinking is problem solving, and that's the problem with most people. And as far as like this whole the hate, like, I think people have it backwards. A lot to me is the Q psyop, right? The Q psyop, all those people just got sucked in. They're like, yeah, they're waking up, bro. Like, look, dude, they know the government's bad. And you're like, dude, we all knew the government was bad. Like, that's not the end all be all. There's way more to this. Like when they say runs America, I argue back and I go, no, we created. That's our proxy. That's our proxy. That's how the Wesley Clark 7, when we go, hey, there's 7 countries we want to invade in 5 years.
Right.
That's part of it. And then is the one right there, because we can't be over there in the Middle East. So that is our proxy that's waiting, like, oh, hey, look, this guy's acting up. Let's go. That's why we load them up with nukes. That's why we load them up with military industrial complex toys, because that pushes our agenda to what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can you guys hear me?
Oh, dude, you sound great now. It's all fixed.
Really?
I don't know what you did. I saw you switching out wires and all that crazy.
Perfect, because I can't hear myself, but that's fine. At what point does the dog become like does he switch it around on the owner though? Because I feel like that part is true, but it also feels a lot like they've gone rogue, you know?
Well, here to that point, this is something that I just picked up from Nick Hinton. He posted it just yesterday. I don't know where this article comes from. It's by Gordon Duff. It was released April 2025. The title is 4chan hacked, Mossad exposed, the digital honeypot that created QAnon and poisoned the American right. So the biggest revelation that Q was born in Tel Aviv, not Langley. The entire mythology of Q, the idea of secret military patriots inside the U.S. government working to expose the deep state and save the children, was in fact a psychological pacification program, which, you know, a lot of us called that, designed to keep the American right docile, disorganized, and permanently waiting. Trust the plan, stay passive, just post memes. Behind the curtain were Israeli and U.S. operatives writing Q drops. Now, I'm not even saying that this is true, but this is a lot of what I began to suspect. And so, you know, for those of you who follow the show, we've had guys on. That's not
guys.
I don't even want to finish my sentence now because he's not. This guy's not. He crushes. He's a great dude. We had guys on, straight guys, like Dave Snedeker, who does put a lot of veracity into the Q drops, and I would say he's not incorrect in that, because in order to hook you, they need to use a lot of truth to do it, right? And so there's a lot of truth within the Q drops, but then there are these major deviations, right? We always say on this show, 9 truths and the 10th lie, and that lie is very important here. So promoting them on 4chan and then later migrating the narratives to YouTube, Reddit, Truth Social, and beyond. The goal: derail real resistance movements and replace them with hopium-addled fantasy narratives. And then the last part here, it says, buried inside the leak were smoking guns, admin and moderator emails tied to .edu and .gov addresses, Israeli IP ranges responsible for more than 50% of all political posts on 4chan, 4chan and Reddit. I don't know which one. I think it's probably, maybe it is 4chan. So all the political posts on 4chan, more than 50% of them, their IP is traced back to a staggering figure for a country comprising of just 0.12% of the world's population. Geolocation data proving that 4chan's vaunted anonymity was a lie, so you were not anonymous on 4chan. And users were aggressively browser fingerprinted, logged, profiled, and in some cases targeted. So yeah, that question, right, that going back to what Top said, at what point does the dog start walking the owner? Yeah, we help to create in a massive way, but then at one point does it become a mutual relationship where it's 50-50, and then can that relationship go, you know, in the other direction? Do they suddenly get 60-70% of the control? I don't know what to make of this article. What do you think, Sean?
Oh, to me, first, I'll say about the whole Q thing, like, I've been calling it out from the get-go. Like, I tell people in 2020, like, you know, I was retired. I was like, man, I'm not doing the conspiracy stuff anymore. And then I came out of retirement because of the whole issue. And I'm like, all right, man, everybody's getting dumb. And then I didn't know about Q, so I had to catch up, right? I had to play catch up. And then I started looking into stuff. If you look into G. Edward Griffin, I know everybody knows who G. Edward Griffin is.
No, I'm not familiar with G. Edward Griffin.
He wrote the book Creature of Jekyll Isle about the Federal Reserve.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's like a huge, like, he's one of the pillars, right? He's been talking about communism before any of us were even born. But he wrote an article in about the early 2000s and talking about this dove of oneness. So there was this dove of oneness who was similar to Q. It was email chains, and it was talking about white hats and saving us, and Nessera was going to be passed, and everybody and all nobody's gonna have to worry about money and this and that. So this was early 2000s, so that was like the blueprint. And then for me, I go back to Cass Sunstein. Cass Sunstein is like the pillar of what I think most of this is. The cognitive infiltration paper is it's the smoking gun. It talks about, to me, this is where we get all the psyops, right? In my opinion, that's where we get the Mandela effect. That's where we get the cloning facilities. That's where they started and that doesn't mean none of this stuff exists, right? That doesn't mean
can
that
I pause you right there?
Real. Yeah.
I want to give you your flowers because it is you and Joel Thomas that are the entire reason that I am even aware of Cass Sunstein and the cognitive infiltration papers and him being part of the Obama administration and all that. And I'm sure that some of my audience wasn't aware of that and then was introduced to it by me. I got that from you guys.
The word would be ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum. Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what my audience get. Pretty much everything. All I do is repeat myself. Turns out I can't read, so I'm just regurgitating a lot of the shit that I've heard before. But you and Joel were the guys that first put that on my radar, so I want to thank you for that. But please continue.
And I got to give props to like people like Tim Dillon and Whitney Webb and like others that have been like dropping that where they gave me those kernels. But yeah, like I feel like that's the cause of a lot of this, because we got Brandon Marshall after 2012. We got all this Mandela effect, like everything's a Mandela effect. Like you got the flat earth, right? Flat earth exploded out of nowhere. Not that it was never a thing, but it just exploded into the mainstream. And I think what happened is these characters are created so we could look foolish, right? Like, so when we're questioning things and we're like, yeah, look at this Operation Northwood, they're like, oh, it must be one of those Alex Jones guys, right? Like Alex Jones character. But I think about the whole, like, can the dog, turn on the owner? Sure, right? I would say more that would be a cat, because dogs are pretty much more loyal than cats. No offense to cat people.
Cats, yeah. I'm a cat guy, and my cat would eat my eyelids if I died in this.
Yeah,
room.
if you died, it would you would be sleeping too long. If you sleep over 9 hours, it will start eating you.
Yeah,
but
100%.
I think that the human nature of power, right? They're gonna shift and pull. Like sometimes they do stuff without. Do they do things that we do not want them to do? Sure. Like it's not like a total control state, but to me, the basis of it is really, hey, what does America want? How do we further this agenda? How do we get this? Everything to me is to sell weapons, right? Military industrial complex. It goes back to that, and to just focus on, don't get me wrong, it has its own problems. I mean, the hatred towards Christianity over there is insane to me. Like, if you've seen I'm sure you've seen tons of videos, they'd be spitting on people, just cursing them out just for praising Jesus. And like, to me, I guess I would consider myself a Christian. I kind of like non-domination, but it's Christian by default because I believe in Jesus Christ, right? Like, I don't have necessarily a home as far as religion, but I believe in Jesus Christ. And my argument to everybody is like, you don't have to believe in Jesus Christ as far as being the savior or being the son of God. That's not, I can't prove that to you. I can't argue that. I can't show you a magic scroll that's like, see, I told you. That's my belief. But his existence is true, right? Like, I can prove to you that his existence was real. And what's the big deal? What does he say? What's his main core message? Hey, man, just treat people right. Is that a bad thing? Should I not tell people that? Should I be like, oh, yeah, hey, I get it why you hate Jesus. That's where they lose me, right? Like, we can have differences in, like, hey, you want to freaking cut your off, part of your off, like at 13, whatever, bro. That's up to you, bro. Like, I don't care what you do, right? You want to break glass and throw it in the air. That's your choice, right? Your culture. But as far as like just like hating somebody because they believe in Jesus Christ when he has a good message, I disagree with that. I think a lot of it turns into this, like, why did they hate us? And we see little clips of people. And I'm sure if I went to, maybe I'll meet a lot of nice people, right? Maybe I'm just seeing these vile clips that's making me feel a certain way. So we got to take everything with a grain of salt too. Because just like when we see people, like I would argue with a couple of my friends, they'll be like, yeah, man, don't you see the left? They're just getting like crazy. And they show me this like video where she's like, I had like 9 I'm like, well, you got to understand that she may not even have had 9 right? She knows that you're the opposite side of her, and the way we've been conditioned by, especially after 2020, arguing online, they're just waiting and they're like, oh, well, this is the red team. Okay, red team's here. Let me go full blast. I'm on camera. I'm going to go full in on it. When we know that she probably didn't even do that. And the arguments that the right has sometimes, just like on abortion, not to like jump around too much, but as an example, abortion, I've been arguing to them for a long time. I'm like, why would you just be like, you're people? I'm like, and you're a piece of person. You're horrible. Go tell them what's really happening. Most of the people that are getting are young women that are in bad places, that don't know what to do, scared to tell their parents, and they don't have many options, or they don't know of alternatives, right? And when you instead be like, hey, don't go to this abortion clinic, right across the street, go to this a life clinic or whatever you want to call it, right? They have a few of them, like anti-abortion clinics. There's not as many as I'd like, but have it right across the street so they have an option and be like, hey, look, this is what happens. You go over here, we'll help you get house, or we'll help you adopt your kid. This is why it's important. And don't focus on being a bad person. Be like, hey, look, 10 years from now, you might regret this decision. Also, I've known women that have had and then they're broke up, like, like 10, 15 years, like it really eats up at them. Like they're like, dang, I killed somebody. I did. So for your own psyche, these are the arguments that I would work for. And then to use that same logic towards the stuff, right? Like, hey, the aren't the problem. They have issues within it, but let's connect Mossad with CIA. You know what I mean? That's the CIA's dirty hand where they're like, well, we didn't do it. Like, you know what I mean? Mossad gets in there. You know what I mean? Oh, well, CIA didn't do it. We have tons of these people around. Just like when we're talking about, they're always talking about wet markets and everything in China. But what about Fort Detrick? You know, in Fort Detrick, where we were splicing and doing the same thing. So it's just like, to me, it's a scapegoat to use as they're the problem. We take out, oh, we're done. Everything's done. No, they're the scapegoat. They do go rogue for sure. I agree. Like, just like when Obama was in office and we were like messing with their nuclear facilities. We had a covert guy in there. They put in a USB cord, a USB, and kind of like messed with it a little bit. Didn't think it was going fast enough. They upped it. And then they noticed, and then that's when Iran attacked us, and they cyber attacks, right? They did the Bank of America thing, stuff like that. So they go rogue quite a bit because they get there. I think everybody wants to be the top dog. They're like, oh, let me flex my muscles real quick and show that I'm the one that's doing all this.
Right. I do think that there's it seems to be a consistent pattern. It's like people wake up, but what they wake up to is just another layer. So they kind of escape this inner bubble and they head out into the next one and they think that they found the truth, not realizing that it's like really like psyops within psyops within psyops. And I'm not here to blackpill anybody. I know that can sound a little bit blackpilling. I think as long as you focus on Jesus Christ and you ask God for discernment and pray on that, then you'll be better off. I also think that we're kind of going that way with AI because I watched a video last night on my show and I was like, this is barely. It was a comedy video of like a black couple going to buy a car at a dealership, and the chick was morbidly obese, and she had a 350 credit score and didn't understand why she couldn't have a car. And I'm laughing. I'm like, this is silly, but I'm looking at it. And I'm like, this is indiscernible. So as far as like trying to find your way through the weeds in the near future, which I think we're like, I don't know, 3 months out from just full blown confusion when it comes to what we're seeing. I think they're going to use that for the Epstein thing. You want to talk about like CIA and Mossad? They're talking about how was it Dan Bongino and what's the head of the FBI's?
Cash Patel.
Yeah. Cash Patel. Yeah, they're saying that nobody came and went in Epstein's cell, and so therefore it had to have been and I'm like, dude, all you're gonna do is show us a still image. Or not a still image, but like a virtually static video of a hallway with a door. And you're going to fast forward it and show us that nobody came or went. Like, AI is there. AI can generate that all day. So if we really are within this kind of like psyops within psyops within psyops, this AI thing is going to really destroy the landscape in a huge way. But, just going back to the conversation, and then I do want to talk about this idea of voice of God technology, but there is a lot of obvious veracity in it, right? When you look at the education institutions in America at the highest echelons, there's an overrepresentation of. When you look at certainly the entertainment, which I think is very nefarious, maybe even more nefarious than the higher education system, because higher education, you're going to capture a small percentage of the country who are going to go on and be influential. But if you are at the head of a cultural manufacturing machine in the way of the music industry or Hollywood, you are going to touch the lives, the living rooms of, all of America. And so when you look at those institutions, they are disproportionately ran by, and there's a question there. It's like, well, what is it? The Bible talks about the of Satan, those who will present as but are not. And so, I do find that there's probably a lot of people who will claim Judaism as a shield of sorts, you know what I mean? So they can do whatever they want to do. And then when you come for them and you say, what are you doing? You're poisoning the well, both metaphorically and literally. They can go, well, that's it. And so I think there is a fair bit of that. I wouldn't be surprised if the people who are, because you watch people convert to Judaism, or they start doing Kabbalism or some shit like that. And I'm like, I just think that is a very convenient shield or armor for you, a scapegoat, when they come for you for doing X, Y, and Z. But just looking at who represents or who's overrepresented within those media companies, and Hollywood and such, and then what those things have given the culture, it's like they've given us poison, absolute poison. In regards to what I just saw, Charlize Theron, I think that's her name, South African actress, famous for, I don't know, a bunch of movies. I forget what she's in, but if you saw her, you'd recognize her. And she's on a show called Guys We recently. And, this is a Hollywood elite. And what is she talking about? Well, she's talking about how even though she's in her 50s, she just had a one-night stand with a 26-year-old guy, and it was fantastic. And so she's just like divulging her disgusting life on this podcast that's all about debauchery. And if you look at her life, she has like, I don't know how many boys, and she puts them all in dresses. It's like, this is what I'm talking about. Like the Hollywood elite that tries to set culture that Americans are going to emulate in the future. And then when you look at who's running Hollywood, you have this overrepresentation of or, air quotes. I don't know if they're real or not.
Yeah. And you have no other, and I understand where people get to that point, right? Like it's a fact of what you're saying. Like, and I think a lot of that has to do with nepotism. Like just like in the school districts, when you see like the janitorial staffs and the security staffs, they're all the same families, right? It'll be like two families that are running the whole school district, like in certain areas. Or you go to a warehouse and the one manager is Mexican, or the one manager is Italian, or the one manager is Irish. Like they're going to go and get most of their family. Now, as far as the Italians and the Irish, I think they've been here more generational. So like it kind of spreads out, and it's kind of not been as, depending on the area, right? In Chicago, New York, some certain parts of Detroit, they're still like pretty there. But when you go into like places that are Middle Eastern or Chaldeans, like out here, we have a lot of Chaldeans. Because I don't know if you know what Chaldeans are. They're just people from Iraq that are Christians, like basically, like they're Iraqis that are Christians. They're Chaldean, and they have they come here, and then when they're only first, second generations, right? You naturally go to what you know. So people that kind of understand your culture, but over time that you control these industries, and I think these people have gotten with drugs, alcohol, and just what we know, a lot of CIA aspects have been, and different intelligent. I use CIA, but we can go through the alphabet of intelligent agencies that have been connected, that we can prove that have been connected with Hollywood. So it would be safe to say that they push these certain people to be in these positions, and maybe being is something that there's something there that we don't know, right? Like I can't give you the smoking gun of it, but maybe there's some aspect of where, hey, they come from, they're intelligent agents. We've trained them.
I wonder, Chris, if it's about, preemptively setting up a scapegoat. Because the same way that I think the speech was suppressed to get to this point where we can then engage in it, and there's this disproportionate blowback, I can't help but wonder if they're just game planning ahead, and it's like, yeah, we're going to use these people as the scapegoat. Because a lot of it looks like that. You know, when you have a Rabbi Shmuley get rolled out into the world stage and he looks like a, and he's selling with his daughter, I go, this isn't even real. I don't even feel like this is real, man. This feels like something to hate. You know what I mean? It's like every once in a while they'll come out and they'll do something so overt and so disgusting that I go, this is meant to evoke the exact reaction that it is evoking in this moment. But
before you let me finish one thought on that, because that's a great point that you made, because this is an argument I've been having. First, like Ben Shapiro and all them, they make me laugh because the whole time they were talking crap about the whole BLM movement, and then they go anti-Semitic, right? Everything's anti-Semitic, but they were like, oh, that can't be racist. Another thing is when you go into, like, I'm gonna use the community as how I'm kind of spin this. My argument is, like, you want people to get on your side, right? If you're a politician and you want people to vote for what you want, you have to bring them into the middle, right? I can't go to the extreme. Why are you having these pride parades with hanging out and naked chicks, and you're like, bring your family? Now, if you had a pride parade and everybody was in suits and, like, you know, regular, people would be more, they go, you're like me. Oh, okay, you go to work. You're a trash guy. You're this guy. You're that. People would have less problems with it. But when you go to these extremes and be like, you have to be like this, and then we're like, absolutely not, bro. Same thing of your point of, like, I forgot that guy's name, but the dildos,
Rabbi Shmuley, yeah. Shmuley doesn't even feel like a real name.
Like a fake name. That sounds like a Simpson character, right? Like,
yeah, it's a caricature. It's a caricature.
I think a good question.
Yeah, go for it.
A good question would be also, why are all of those things you just mentioned almost inherently, like the stuff from John Money, it comes directly from him, and then how clownish it is and how obviously clownish it is just something that we're, like, left to ponder. And then again, now we're all looking at the top, and it's like every time. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. Like, I've done a lot of jokes online about every single time, but no, dude, every single time. And then you pair that with their religion, that, like, we've been talking about how, like, well, the idea of what a goyim is. And I think even yesterday we were talking with Thomas, or the day before, we were talking about the Gentile, this kind of thing. That's where the goyim prefix comes from. And how even in the Basque region, there was a group of hairy people that, like, resembled Bigfoot, but they were from the Gentil, Gentil. I guess they were classified as gentle. So it's like, who's doing this? How much of the rest of us are classified as animal, because that's in the Talmud? And then, is that indicative of their behavior towards us? These are real deal questions that, you know, we could talk about the CIA and we could blame all three letter agencies and stuff like that. And sure was set up by America in 1948, 1947. But the fact is that, like, there's a group of people that do really think that. So where do I put that? Where do we now put that? And the obvious answer here is what they want you to be angry about it. And it's the same way they want you to be angry about that stuff. The same way they want you to be angry about the BLM stuff. But again, to be honest, when I look at the top of those organizations, it's all. So now it's just happening to again. And, like, we're supposed to go and, like, get in a frenzy and get mad about what they're doing, which is, I think it's certainly right. They're certainly doing this.
But it is a historical loop, right?
It's just a historical loop, and it's like another fall guy, but it's a fall guy that's created by the same people and to the same end. So it's like, useful idiots tear this thing down as they do the next thing. And it's like, well, what's the next thing? What's going on? What is really going on?
Well, I think we've explored that a lot on the show, and it seems like if you just look at the Bible, maybe the reason that they keep ending up as the scapegoats is because
I'm about to, like, log off. I'm so frustrated.
No, you
like,
know what it is?
I think you got
turned it down right before. Yeah, when you just raised it, it sounds a lot better.
Yeah, to me it sounds good right now. Don't listen to the people. Listen to us. Don't listen to the chat. Listen to us.
Well, I asked him. I was trying to get some feedback.
He was Jewish. That guy was. I told you, so I'm just gonna say it.
It's the Jews. But we've been doing a lot of, looking into that. And it seems like you have to ask yourself, why is this group of people constantly leveraged into the scapegoat position where they then become the victims? And they're like the thing that allows giant leaps in historical moments to take place, right? And it all kind of like happens, on them. And then you look at the Bible and it's like, well, they do have this really strong delusion, right? Whoever denies the Son denies the Father. They don't believe that Christ is the Messiah. And if you look at them historically, especially in the Old Testament, time after time, miracle after miracle, they still fall back to worshiping old gods, right? And the Moses and the tablets, when he comes down and they're worshiping the calf, it goes to show you like there is something they can see. Miracle after miracle, they can be liberated from Egypt. They can see the rivers turn to blood. They can see the sea parted for them to escape, and then fall upon their enemies. But given enough time, they seemingly repeatedly will go back. So, if you believe what we believe on Nephilim Death Squad, which is this is all spiritual warfare, and behind all of this, right? It's not flesh and bone that what's the expression? I forgot how it goes in the Bible because I can't read, but
we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, something like that.
Right. So it's like there is something moving them. But since we understand that the spiritual realm is all based off of consent, they're playing a role in allowing themselves to be moved by these adversarial spirits. And I think that's why time and time again, they end up becoming the scapegoat. They end up becoming the central component. They are the flesh representative of these powers and principalities that move them. And I think it seems pretty obvious, but the buck doesn't stop at flesh. The buck goes beyond that, and it's spiritual.
So here's an example. Somebody just sent this to me, but it popped up. Ted Cruz, happy 4th of July. Today is also the 47th anniversary of the daring Entebbe raid, which I was only 5 at the time, but I remember being inspired by the courage of the IDF team that rescued the hostages. Fine. Okay, that happened. But to bring that up on the 4th of July, when you were just on Tucker Carlson and he pulled your pants down about supporting.
Yeah.
You're doing it on purpose now.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz isn't a dumb guy. He's actually a pretty smart guy, but it's done intentionally to inflame the rest of us. So me, maybe a year and a half ago, I would have responded to this and said some crazy stuff. But now I'm looking at, I'm like, why are you trying to provoke me? Why are you trying to make me react? Because if it's 4th of July, this is about America. But it's like, do you see how quickly that happens right there? This is on purpose. And it's just, the question is to what end,
And if it's spiritual, right? Like if we go into that realm, you guys got my wheels turning a little bit. What if it is some kind of like, I don't want to say curse, but like, not believing in Jesus Christ, like, like rejecting it from the get-go, right? And this tumbleweed of like desperate, like to go against Christianity, because that's what's been going on for a long time, right? Because it started with the people that go, yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ, his first followers, the 12 apostles, and people starting to gain a big following. And then, he's crucified, he rises again. That's where they still don't believe that. And I think that maybe there's just like from generation of people that didn't believe, and then putting these thoughts in people's head, like we got to attack them, we got to be this. And maybe that's how they became the scapegoats, and they're more vulnerable to be in these positions of manipulation, because they're like, well, the ultimate goal was to prove that Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, right? And I think it could stem from that. I'm not saying it is. That's just what you guys made me think of when you were talking right now.
Well, they do ask in the Bible when Herod is, he gives them the choice between Barabbas and Jesus and who to crucify. And they go, put that, yeah, give us Jesus. And he goes, all right, well, that blood's on your hands. And they go, yeah, put that blood curse on us and our children. They specifically asked for that. It's crazy.
Right.
And he's like, all right, fine. That curse is on you, I guess, not on me. And he washes his hands, and then the rest happens. So it's like, if you believe in that kind of stuff, like blood curses, and that people could ask to have that, well, they did, and it's documented. And yeah, look at the fruit, right?
But that's it, right? Throughout the Bible, there are instances of God sending strong delusions to those who refuse to see the truth in the beginning. It's like almost like, okay, if you don't want to see it, it's plainly here in front of you, then, you're going to have this. And I think that it is, we talked about it with Ed Mabry. It's a challenge, not only to them, but also to us as the Goyim, that we should see what they can't see. And we also are subjected to their behavior. And then what are we called to do? We're called to preach to them and preach the gospel. And we're also called to, we learned this, I learned this in the last episode we did with Ed Mabry when it comes to blessings and curses. It's like, we're called to bless, and anybody who curses, then God will curse them. But what does that mean? Does that mean that we're sending them money and that we're wishing their army well to go and do whatever is happening in Gaza? No, it's like you're praying for them to realize that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. That's the blessing that you're meant to give them, is that they come to God and they realize the error of their ways. But I don't think that means that we're then supposed to support the government of. That's like this big misunderstanding that seems to be, especially boomers. They have quite a bit of that. But I want to move on from this. Well, actually, we're now at the 46-minute mark. I got to wait for Top to come back. I think he's still having. There he goes.
I'm
He's
just
back.
having like all kinds of issues today. This is crazy.
It's unbelievable. On the 4th of July, guys, you have been
Ted Cruz.
getting. What's that?
Yeah.
It's Ted Cruz. I know.
It is Ted Cruz.
I knew he was going to do this.
That son of a bitch.
He always acts up on the 4th of July.
Always, every time. Guys, we are at the 46-minute mark, and you've gotten way too much free content for us. If you want to continue enjoying this conversation and being a part of the live chat and all these different things, patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad is for you. You could even sign up for a 7-day free trial, but sign up for the $10 tier so you can get access to Bohemian Grove Day 1 and Day 2. That's 12 hours of content for only $10. It costs us $20,000 to execute that event. So, shout out to General Flynn. Thank you for the gracious loan of $20,000. Very high interest rate, but, he's a... All right. Getting back to it, guys. So we were going to talk about, and we should talk about, because I think this fits into quite a bit of our research, this idea of the voice of God technology. I don't know where you want to start in regards to that, Sean, but that is a very fascinating topic. So take it away, brother.
I think we could start with like what it is, right? So basically what it is directing sound, right? Just like how a light bulb, harnessing sound and being able to shoot it, direct it at somebody. And we could go with Woody Norris. I don't know if you guys know who Woody Norris is. You could go on YouTube and check his TED Talk out, and he actually talks about hypersonic sound and actually using sound like a light bulb, and to like, because before, right, light just goes everywhere, right? But with the light bulb, you were able to contain it within its own structure and use it, right? So I can light up this whole studio. You can light up your studios, such and such. He goes through and does a whole 15-minute TED Talk about the technology that he created, where I don't know if he created, but he's one of the head. He uses it as actual commercial product. So he demonstrates for the audience. He has his little panel, I forgot, where he like shows it to each audience member, and as he puts it towards you, it has a waterfall sound that directly hits inside of your ear, but only if he points it directly at you. And during that conversation, he talks about how it was used in the Iraq War to actually fight against the enemy, where they were aiming it at the enemy and they were having it these recordings and voices in their language and telling them, I'm God, and this is where the name comes from, and in their ear, put down your weapons, or you're going to feel my wrath. And when there's nothing else, and when you move out of the location, you can no longer hear it. So to them, it's like, this is God, right? Like there's no anything else around. It fools the mind. This was also used in where they wanted to use it as marketing tools, so they had this whole thing. This is where Woody Norris comes up with the idea of like, hey, in stores, we have these, hey, buy this Red Bull, and a lot of the store clerks were like, oh, I'm getting annoyed of this. These little displays that would constantly have the same sounds over and over, so they would turn them off. And he goes, well, what if we have harness sound that it only goes into your ear when you walk past it? You know what I mean? You walk past it, and then it's like, hey, buy. And then it's also a subliminal message. So he breaks down. It's a really good video. If anybody, when Kill the Mockingbirds is back under Disconstruction, you could go to the disinformation or the misinformation complex section and go check out the video. It's a really good find where you can kind of like, he breaks it down much better than me. I'm just kind of paraphrasing what he's saying, but the technology does exist, right? To me, the importance of bringing him up is he is proof that this technology exists. He didn't just do a whole TED talk, and he does talk about the military, and people disagree that it was used. Of course, what's the military gonna be like? Yeah, we got this weapon that we pretend that God is talking to talking to you to put down your weapons. But he's proved that it worked, and he has like a whole crowd. It has to be like 200-300 people that are like, oh wow, like you could tell they're genuinely like being affected by this.
You know
I
why
think
it sounds like it definitely exists, Sean, is because of course the very first two things that we would look at as far as implementation goes is weaponry and marketing. I mean, it sounds a lot like what happened with the Vietnam thing that we were talking about yesterday, Top, where they're playing the supposed, agonizing shrieks of their dead loved ones who weren't buried fast enough, and it was like this psychological warfare they were implementing on the Vietnamese, where they're like I said, they're playing the sounds of the dead, basically.
What year is does Woody? What years is he active? Like, is this taking place?
I want to say this TED Talk was in 2005. It's quite a bit ago. It was like one of the early first TED Talks.
All right, yeah. So that's much later, because some of this technology, like some of the work that we've been doing with looking at Indrija Puharich and his dental tooth implant stuff, he has like a patent on it. It's just like a piece of metal that they put on your tooth or in your tooth, and they could simulate the voice of God technology in your head. It's where the idea of the tinfoil hat comes from, because guys that have had this done under duress or them not knowing, they end up in psych wards, and they'll wrap their heads in foil, and that'll stop the radio waves being pointed at their head. And it's like, actually my wife just picked up one of these things. It's one of those headphones that goes on your, like, right on your bone here.
Oh yeah, that's like a bone conducting kind of a thing. Yeah,
and it basically sends the vibrations into your skull rather than in your ear. It's a little bit safer for your hearing, but it's the same sort of technology where they're sending the radio waves into your tooth, vibrating, and you're hearing it in your head. But God only knows what what it is driving people crazy.
Yeah, something tells me, Sean, that 2005 and a TED Talk.
It was 2009, just to verify. But I just looked it up. I was a little bit off, but
so 2009 in a TED Talk, you could probably be safe on betting that they had access to that technology long before, probably decades before they decided to roll it out in a public forum like that.
Because I believe his name, I think Dr. Duncan or what, he was on like a long time. Remember that Jesse Ventura conspiracy show? It was like something Duncan. I can't remember his name, but he was on there talking about the voice of God back then, and that was like in the early 2000s. I think that was predated even Dr. Robert Duncan. There you go. He was talking about that on Jesse Ventura's show, and this was allegedly a first implemented in the Gulf War. I said the Iraq War. I meant exactly. Let's not say the second Iraq War, but the first one, the Gulf War. So that's where they're like, hey, put down your weapons and all this stuff. But then I'm going on like, so just to give the basis of people understanding like this is the technology. Now we're going to get into more of my theories, and I'm glad Top, you was talking about like frequencies, because I believe frequencies are everything, right? I'm just big on frequencies. I do the frequency healings. I do all kinds of stuff because I think frequencies are everything. Even like interdimensional, I believe that there's not this like everything's flickers of frequencies. That's how we see Bigfoot. That's how we see Mothman. That's how we see these things, because I think the frequencies of these different dimensions every now and then and they're always by these CERN, these hydro colliders. So I think messing with stuff like that, it actually flickers these frequencies that enter these dimensions, because I think the dimensions are layered upon layers upon layers.
Mm-hmm.
So going with the frequency aspect, I was talking about like that. I first started coming up with this when I was on Juan podcast, and we were discussing it, and I was telling him, well, the came out, right? The Koof came out, and some people allege it had nanotechnology in it, right? Which is very possible, and they can't say it's not, because you can go up and see DARPA videos that are from like 2005, 2006, that they were implanting nanotechnology in soldiers to read their blood pressure, their temperature, so on and so forth. So it is not a far stretch to say that you could put nanotechnology in these syringes. But what if it's more than nanotechnology? What if it's this orgonite technology. I don't know if you know what the organites is. It's like it's these self-producing robots. It's similar to nanotechnology, but it's actually like kind of they can convert on their own and multiply on their own. Now, what if all these things were implanted in us, right? Forcibly or by our own willingness, whatever the reason why you didn't want to lose your job, so you got jabbed up in it. And then I think last year, and I won't say it's all George Soros, right? But the Soros family and his foundation bought up all these radio stations.
Hmm.
The FM and AM radio stations, there's towers everywhere, right? And it's a dying art with streaming and with all the stuff we have now. Radios aren't that much because it got me thinking because I was driving down the road one day and I just wanted to go for a little drive. Just sometimes I like to go on a drive to, not think of stuff and just listen to some tunes. I said, man, I haven't listened to AM radio in forever. I went on AM radio and it's almost non-existent. There's literally only a couple channels, a couple sports, some Spanish channels, and some wacky political talk. Nothing crazy. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. All this infrastructure is just here. And I had got the idea of like, oh, that'd be awesome if we like bought these stations and like force people, like, you know what I mean? Not only stream, but broadcast it. But then when I saw the George Soros thing, I'm like, oh, what are they going to use this for? Right? This is outdated technology. But if you send out frequencies through that, which we know that radio signals send frequencies, and then if we have these organites or nanotech, whatever we want to call it, inside of us, does that make us react differently? Is that why we're seeing more violent outbursts? Is that why we're seeing these things? Like, not saying that human nature doesn't have this already, right? Before all this technology, I get it, people were violent, but it does seem to an extreme. It seems like we've been to this new threshold of hate, right? Where people out of nowhere just snap. And I'm like, well, if you're sending frequencies, right? They had this whole was that Cubonic syndrome or whatever that was getting people sick with microwave frequencies. Well, what if I'm able to send frequencies that can impulse you or change your mindset? Or if I know, if I tune this, right? Like they even talk about music, tuning the different frequencies in music that can hypnotize you, that can put you into these trances and make you listen to the words more deeply, and you can be affected by it. I'm gonna take it a step further because after I had that conversation with them, I was driving to work one day and I was on the freeway and I had got into the other lane and they had just done finished paving it supposedly, and it was making this weird the whole way, and it actually got me in a little daze. And so I'm like, oh, what if they started doing this with the frequencies of the radio towers as well with the roads? Because the roads, just like a record, when you put a needle on a record, it plays the sound. If they changed the roads to where we're now driving on them and now it is changing our personalities, I think that you can think past this. I think that if you are very strong mentally, that this could not affect you. Like, but if you're not, if you're one of these NPC-ish or sheep people or people that are really just can only think of two thoughts in their mind, now you have another aspect of just driving to work and you're just turn on the radio that has that right frequency that now could connect all these things together that can really make you into a monster, in my opinion.
Dude, okay, there's a lot there. So we were just talking to Vicky Joy Anderson yesterday, and she was saying how um, there's a vibrational aspect to sleep paralysis, which a lot of us are very familiar. We've talked about it a bunch of times, but she said something interesting about having like a fan running and how the hum of the fan can act as a binaural beat to sync up the hemispheres of the brain and cause you to like more or less astral project, or at least put you in a different state. So when you're talking about those bumps on the road, sort of lulling you into a different state, to me, it feels like a rudimentary version of binaural beats, right? If everything is based off of frequency and your brain has this tendency for whatever reason to sync up to whatever it's being exposed to, then what happens when it starts syncing up to those bumps on the road? That's a very fascinating thing. But it's also interesting to me because you're talking about uh this radio frequency that Soros is buying up the radio towers. There was an old experiment on a cat. This was in the 90s, I think. And what they were doing, I've talked about this before, they're subjecting, I might be butchering it. I understood it at one point as they put an implant on the cat's brain and they were able to send very simple electrical impulses to the aggression centers of the cat's brain, and they were able to make it hyper aggressive or incredibly docile, so that it wouldn't respond to any sort of stimulation. And that also sounds a lot like what happened in the movie Kingsman. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kingsman, but what they did was they issued everybody an Obama phone, basically, in that film. And so everybody has this government issued phone, and it's got a special chip in it. And then what happens is somewhere throughout the film, the evil mastermind hits the trigger, and the chip in the phone starts emitting this frequency that drives everybody into a rage. Everybody into a rage. It's actually a really incredible scene. Very funny. I think they did it to Freebird. So they were playing Freebird, and they were just in a church, and everybody is basically each other in this really fantastic way. And I mean fantastic in the sense of like over the top and crazy. And there's, I think that is something that they're almost like what's the word? Predictive programming us with. If you look at the state of things now, I think it's safe to say, when were the Rodney King riots? Were like one of the biggest things.
1992.
Right. And that was like huge. Now it seems like we get a riot every summer.
It's normal.
So, yeah, now it's normal. Now it's been normalized. Yeah, riot season, exactly. And then you have all these movies like The Purge and things like that are giving you a kind of predictive programming basis for that as well. We had a guy come on our show, Drew Tang Reborn, who's talking about those movies are setting up for like this forever purge or this forever riots, like where they no longer need an individual like George Floyd or what was the kid's name? Travis or I forgot what his name is, but the kid with the Skittles. Trayvon Martin, thank you. So you no longer need an issue like that. Eventually we'll get to the point where the public is queued up and has a reason to riot in perpetuity. And so I don't know. I'm looking at Kingsman. I'm looking at that frequency thing. I'm looking at the fact that during the number one thing that was erected, the number one occupation, it seems, that was considered essential, were whoever the hell was erecting the 5G towers. So I've gotten pretty comfortable with the idea that we're under, frequency warfare of some sort, especially ever since 2020 in a huge way when they started. It was just like, everything was shut down except for erecting 5G towers. Now I can't drive anywhere, even in rural areas, without seeing this gigantic monstrosity on the horizon, towering over, beautiful fields with horses and cows and everything. And it's just this 5G monstrosity. And apparently they're getting ready to do 6G. I think that there's a high chance that a lot of this, and then, a lot of the mental as well. This is all due to frequency warfare. I think we're being subjected to that right now.
And to go to the movie aspect of it, a film that I watched just randomly. It's not like a big film. It's called Valerian and the City of the Thousand Planets. It's on Prime.
Is that with Channing Tatum?
No, I don't think he's in it. It's like a more like I don't think anybody majors in it. I can't. I would have to go back and remember. But the interesting part about this is it's like everybody's living on like a spaceship, a space shuttle, and they're kind of like all together. But then they go to different planets. They go to this one planet. This is where it really sparked the whole frequency thing for me. They go to this planet and it looks like a desert wasteland. Like it has nothing. And there are all these humans going there and they're visiting on a vacation. They go, all right, and they're getting them ready. And they go, okay, here's your glasses. They all scope them up with these glasses and put them on. As soon as they put the glasses on, it's this whole different world where there's these alien creatures and bars and clubs and theaters like that didn't even exist. Literally, the whole plane was nothing but dirt. So then that's where I got the idea of like, okay, maybe it's interdimensional layers of frequencies, and we can't see it because we're at a lower or higher frequency depending on what it is. That's why maybe some people that see UFOs and see Bigfoot more than others, because they're at that frequency. Maybe they're naturally at a higher frequency that makes them be able to have that channeling of it. It's very interesting. It just blew my mind of like, okay, yeah, there has to be layers upon layers. That's why if you take 10 people to the same place and that if 5 of them saw Sasquatch and the other 5 didn't, well, maybe because they have a higher frequency level or they've broken that somehow, right? I don't know the full aspect of how we raise our frequencies or lower them. Maybe it's from listening to me. I know that like the forced way of it, but I don't know naturally, right? What we like run at as a, like, what's our natural frequency?
That's interesting because we were just talking about Dysonian glass like last episode, right, Top?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. But that so that movie that you're mentioning is probably like playing on They Live, which is very much
Yeah.
the same thing. But They Live,
There, baby. Got the
yeah, I see
got
at
the
the bottom
poster
there. They Live is a take on Dysonian glass that comes from what was happening in the Vietnam War, where some of the American soldiers were using this. It's like a blue tinted glass. It's like this toxic material, and it's supposed to be used for night vision or to see aura. But they were reporting seeing entities when they looked through this. So yeah, it's all the same. It's one to one. It's just a story being retold on something that actually happened. And I think with the Dysonian glass, I think that color helps people to like refract a certain amount of light that we're seeing and turn it into something that's perceivable to us. So the frequencies that and the colors that are around us that we don't get to see a lot, that acts as like a prism to see some of these things. So I think there's some veracity to that for sure.
And it makes sense
seems like
because you said the blue, right? Because everybody says green screen, but originally it was a blue screen, right? Before the green screen, it was blue. The only reason it changed to a green screen is because, like, that green is something that most people won't wear, right? It's not a color that's common. But all the original newscasts that were using it was a blue screen. And I wonder if it comes from that technology of like, hey, look, this is what does this, and you're altering things, right? You're altering your background. So that's just interesting to me.
I think that you're definitely right over the target though when it comes to that film. What was it called?
It's called Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. So yeah, that idea that you're putting on these glasses and exposing an entire other layer of reality that's happening simultaneously. Because that's obviously, if you're putting on Dysonian glasses or however it's pronounced, and you're seeing these entities, it's like the glasses isn't making them appear. They appear over this layer, this materialistic layer, this physical layer that we exist in, and they're there at all times, or not maybe all times, but depending on what's happening, they might be in your proximity. Because the other thing we talked about was a guy that was going to come on the show, but he didn't because it was, I guess you could call it too woo woo for his reputation. But he still did confide in us and tell us like, hey, I do research on the Oklahoma City bombing. I can't talk about this publicly, but the amount of people that were reporting demons and angels on the ground in the aftermath is pretty substantial. Separate folks, but still talking about the same thing. And it can't help but wonder if the reason why it happened there and the reason why they saw that in Vietnam, when you can still get these glasses, Dr. Parkenstein, I think is his name, on Twitter. He's a bit of a like this Wild West scientist right now. He's like a Nikola Tesla character, makes pylons in his backyard and does all kinds of crazy. He bought Dysonian glasses and he says, yeah, you can see auras with them. And here's what the alleged different colors mean. He's not confirming that that's what they actually mean, but he is saying like, yeah, you can see different color auras around people, interestingly enough, with these. Now, why didn't he see demons and angels? Is it because he wasn't in a war zone? He wasn't in a place where a mass casualty event just took place and the energy that is coming off of this physical event is something that these entities are attracted to. Some of them parasitic, some of them are feeding off the negative energy, some are there maybe in a good context, maybe that's where you get the angels and demons thing from, but it just seems like when you talk about powers and principalities in the Bible, they are in localities. They're not omnipresent like God. They're residing over a specific area. And so if they're not omnipresent, and if they are really locked into land masses and things like that, could it be then that they are traveling to and fro. So if you are in a place where all of this insane energy just got spilled out, that they're coming there to be a part of it.
Or could it be that the ones that we are seeing are like in purgatory, right? Like if you do believe in Jesus Christ and we do go to heaven, and maybe we're not on this like land, on earth anymore, and maybe the ones that are trapped here, whether it be in purgatory because you're being judged still, or because you're in these other belief systems that, the satanic weird stuff, that I think it traps you. Because I've always believed that, if you've noticed, like when a lot of good people pass away, if like I feel like that energy, they go up, and that good energy kind of like frequency keeps in the earth. But when we have all these catastrophic events and hate, right? You're over hate, whether you're right or wrong, that doesn't matter, right? It's like I get protecting and all that, and you're doing what you got to do, but it initiates from hate. So I would assume that like God's like, I don't know, bud. Like I don't think you're gonna make it to the gates, bud. Like you're gonna have to prove some stuff to me, or whatever that may be. I'm not going to be arrogant enough to think that I can know what the hell God is, like how he judges people. But basically, I think that is purgatory on earth, that you're stuck in this frequency. And maybe we're just seeing it because it's this frequency of it all on top of each other. Because what if heaven is it's all one thing? We're always looking like it's to the sky, or but what if it's all one thing, but it's just these different knobs of frequency that could be like, hey, we could turn it to hell, we could turn it to heaven. It's layer upon layers, because I mean, God is more powerful than we could even imagine. That like we don't really know what he created. Like we piece together like, hey, yeah, he made the earth and the heavens, but what is that? Now us as humans, we translate that like, oh, heavens must be the sky, but we don't know that. We don't really know if it's a frequency thing of how he created everything. And there's a lot of arrogant people online that will be like, oh, well, God meant this. And I'm like, all right, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't. You can interpret and try, but when they try to absolute say like, this is what God meant, I'm like, I don't know, bro. I don't get into that. Because when I get up there, he can be like, he likes me because I make him laugh. That's how I figured. That's all I'm hoping. I'm hoping I'm hoping these jokes are cracking up. He's like, this guy. Yeah, you're right. It is a juice, bud. Like,
yeah. That's kind of where my where I'm putting all my cards is. I hope he finds me entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, in the book of Enoch, it talks about how what we interpret as demons are actually the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, the offspring of fallen angels and mankind. And when they die, they don't ascend. Their spirits are basically locked in. And so if you think about what do spirits that possess people really want, it seems like they want to not only corrupt the individual and not only engage in this parasitic relationship with them, but to engage in the physical. They want to engage in sins of the flesh. So that's why so many people that are like plagued by demons are engaging in like rampant drug usage, violence, all kinds of like really, it's all sins of the flesh, right? It's all, things that'll corrode and destroy you, but it's all flesh driven. And so it makes sense to me that these things exist in this realm, that I think everything is dulled for them in a huge way. Like they still exist in some form or fashion, but they envy us for being able to interact with this realm. That's why they want in constantly, which is, I've talked about this before. When people go down this rabbit hole of being like, this is a prison planet and we have to escape, and the way to escape is like Antarctica or the Tropic of Cancer or whatever the case may be. I go, I don't think it's a prison planet. You know, some people are like, oh, like Gnostics believe this is like hell. And I'm like, I don't think this is hell either. I mean, there's too much beauty here. I don't think that if you go to a plane of eternal suffering, you get to love your wife and child.
Yeah.
And anything like that. You know what I mean? I don't think that you have those moments where you just wake up and walk outside and take a deep breath and go, man, we are crushing today. It is a beautiful day. Thank God. I don't think if you exist in hell, you are struck with these moments to thank God for. I don't think those would exist in a plane of eternal suffering.
Agree.
And I don't think that this is something that we need to escape in the flesh. I think maybe there is a way, if you want to get all Truman Show about it, that there's some way to escape this reality and, I don't know, gain access to the extra lands or escape this dimension. I don't think that that's the point of this. I think we're missing the point if we do that. The point is we're here as a refining place. This refines our spirit. This is like almost like a proving ground. It's also something that we have to bear witness to and are subjected to, because I think in the Bible, the way that it lays it out is this is an elongated court case, right? A judgment comes at the end of this, not only for us, but for these entities that we're being subjected to, and the plan that they've executed since being cast out. So I don't think that people that get into this idea that this is some sort of a prison planet, I don't know about that. I think honestly that was served up to us in a big way by those.
I think it's a psyop for sure. I think that, like, to me, the earth was gifted to us by God, and and so that's why it's important that we have stuff. This, like, when I didn't know this when I was younger, but people would always be like, "Oh, well, you believe in God, how come all this bad stuff happens?" For me, like, I had a rocky relationship with God, right? I've always believed in God, but like my dad died early, like when I was like 12 years old, and it made me hate him. Like, I still believed him, like, you know what I mean? I never disbelieved. I was like, "Oh, you all right? You want to, all right, bud?" Like, you know, and I would be mad. I would pray, just talk. I'd be like, "I'm just praying. Hey, what's up, man?" But then to come to the realization as you get older that it's not necessarily God's fault, because God gave us free will. Free will changes everything, right? Like, if it's not God going, "Oh, hey, let me do this for you. Let me do this for you." No, he unfortunately can't. He's like, "Hey, man, to create this wonderful world for you, I have to give you free will." And unfortunately, people can use that negatively, right? We can use it positively, like you said, to love our family and love our partners and all these people. And then there's other people that get distracted by these entities that are jealous of us. In my opinion, they're jealous that, like, we've been given free will and that we've been able to inherit this earth, and like we're out of there, you know, God's specifically gave this to us, and that's how it goes. And I think so many people, that's why you hear all this end of the world, they want to end the world because they want to go to heaven. And I'm like, I think God's going to be mad at you, because he's going to be like, "Hey, man, I gave you this gift." You're like, "Yeah, redemption at the end and all this, we get it. Like, you can ask for forgiveness because I know you're not perfect. I know you're going to make bad decisions. But as you grow older, like, I'm not making the same decisions I was making at 20 years old. I'm 42 now. I'm not making those same decisions. Now, some people are. And if you are, well, you got a lot more to learn, right? You're not growing. You're not expanding. You're not using the free will, in my opinion, the way it was given to us, to be like, "Hey, you make these mistakes sometimes early on in life." Some people don't make them as early, or they make them earlier, or they don't extend it, right? I extended my bad thoughts for a while longer than I probably should have. I didn't grow fast enough, but I'm not doing the same things. I'm growing and using my the gifts that God gave me to try to keep building and being better and enjoying my time on the earth. Doesn't mean I don't think I know I'm gonna go to heaven at some point, but I don't want to go now. Like, I want to enjoy what I have and what you've gifted me. And I think so many people are so adamant about, like, we need to end the world. And that's kind of like, if go back to what we were talking about earlier with a lot of stuff with the stuff. There's all these boomer Christians that are like, "Yeah, the prophecies." And I'm like, dude, shut up, man. Like, enjoy yourself. Be good to people, be good to your family, spread some good stuff. It's not blackpilling. It's like, the only thing you can help is yourself. Like, the reason we talk about these stuff like voice of God, it's so you're aware of it, so it can be like, "Oh, that's not going to affect me." So if I feel like I'm leaning towards this way, or I'm getting angry for no reason and getting, it could be this voice of God weapon. It could be these other things that are being sprayed up. So now that I have the knowledge, I could stop it. I can go back. I can go into meditation, go into prayer, and go, "Hey, God, how do I, the real voice of God," right? Not this phony technology that is meant to elude and push us away from God. Because I think I'm pretty sure I've listened to enough of your guys' episodes that, like, I think that's like your undertone is like, "Hey, man, stop pushing people away from God." What you guys say, you on the outer exterior of, like, we might cuss, we might talk crap, we might say stuff, but the end goal is like, "Hey, man, go to God." There is no black pill. There is no all these red, blue pills. There's only the God pill. Believe in God and Jesus Christ, and follow the best you can, because we're going to fail. There's no way that you're going to live in that purity. But if you try, you can't find perfection. You strive for it, but you won't meet it. But at least you'll be able to rest well at night, and knowing that, hey, I've done everything that I can do to be the best person and the best version of myself, and use my free will the way I think God intended.
And thank God we have redemption offered through Jesus Christ,
Yep.
because we're gonna fail and we suck. But this is something, you want to talk about black pills. This just dawned on me. So I was talking with my son about the Matrix, the film The Matrix, and how when I watch it, like, sure, there are a lot of truths embedded with it. It's a really profound film, and obviously, like, they were onto something. They knew something, but it didn't sit well with me. I don't know if you want to call it the Holy Spirit or you know, discernment or my gut or whatever, but something about it was like, no. And I was explaining to him, I'm like, there's something wrong here, because what it's doing is it's telling you that same thing, that the world is a prison, the world is hell, and that well, somebody created it. Who created it? Well, the AI or the machines created it, and they're evil and they're feeding off of us, and yada yada yada. And so there's something fundamentally wrong with that message. And I just looked it up while you were talking, and it's like, yeah, so the Gnostic, so the Matrix is just Gnostic. So the Gnostics believe that the material world and the material universe is hell. It's interpreted as hell in their opinion, and that it was created by a flawed deity called the demiurge, right? Which is what everybody is familiar with. And then if you go a step further, there are conversations within Gnosticism that the demiurge is ancient artificial intelligence. So there you go. That's exactly what the Matrix was. The Matrix just told you but they did it with cool bullet time and kung fu, you know, and really great special effects for the late 90s. I think it was 99 when it came out, or 98.
Yep.
And they're saying they just fed you the Gnostic belief system. And dude, what the Matrix did to Western culture was bananas, and especially what it did to some individuals. I mean, some people killed their entire families to try to liberate them and escape this prison system, this hell that we exist in. It's literally Gnosticism. That's what the Matrix is, and they're all up in the game. They believe that God that created this unbelievably beautiful place. Just talk about if you want to put a hole in what they believe, just look at your children, look at your wife, look at the sky, look at how beautiful any given day is. And here in Florida, it looks like the sun is shining. I don't know for how much longer. I know it's supposed to have a storm today. But if I go outside and I kick a ball around with my son, how in the hell can I look at that situation and go, we're in hell, buddy? I don't know if you know this. Hey, catch this ball. We're in hell. We're in a prison system. This is hell. It's like, I thought hell was going to be a lot worse than this. The Gnostics have it all backwards. I mean, they probably have latched on to a great deal of truth, but like we constantly talk about on this show, 9 truths to sell you that one fundamental lie, which is you need to rebel against God, because the God of this world, who's given you all these beautiful things to be thankful for, to be grateful for, is the demiurge, is ancient AI. Man, it's crazy. That's exactly what the Matrix is. Son of a, I gotta go and tell my kid.
It's ungrateful children, right?
Ungrateful children. That's what we are.
I like that. That's exactly a good way to say it. It simplifies it, but it's true. It's the most truth that like you can give. Just ungrateful children that are like spoiled, right? Entitled. It's like we're not even understanding. Like, and I understand at aspect, right? There's a point of like a teenager that I was entitled, or I didn't understand things. But if you grow up and you're still in that mentality, that's a problem. Like, you can't understand that God gave you all these gifts. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, I was at work on Tuesday, tired, right? Like, my daughter's 22 years old, and she lives in California. I live in Michigan. We talk quite a bit and we have good times. But my brother has my nephews, which are 5 and 3, right? On Tuesday, I'm tired. It's hot as hell. And I'm like, oh, I got to go to this football practice, like, you know, in the game. Like, I'm kind of a little bit irritated because I'm tired of work. As soon as I get there, that shit all wipes away. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, man. This is, you forget about it. Like, no, I'm human, so I'm going to get stuck in those frustrations at time, but I have to recognize that the frustration has nothing to do. The frustration is the stress of not being able to do everything that you want to do, right? Yeah. Most of our stresses be like, I need to get this much money to do this, or I need to have much time to do this, or that's where the stress comes from. And when you kind of like boil it down to that, you kind of know like, oh, okay, I'll be all right, but enjoy it. So if I would have been pissed off and be like, oh, not even enjoying the moment of seeing my nephew first time playing football, having a great time, like really enjoying himself, then I miss it. Like, because I'm in myself. And that's great what you said about the Gnostics too, because it's also the same could be said for this whole simulation theory, right? So you're telling me that humans are as good as God? Like, we're just as good as God, that we're like, yeah, we could just make a fake earth. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
we
believe
made Grand Theft Auto 5, so it's like the same thing. That's what drives me
it.
nuts about it. It's like at the end of the day, what are you saying? Well, it seems like this realm was created, which means that there's a creator outside of this simulation, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's like, yeah, that's called God, dummy. And that's been people have been saying that, but we make Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, and we think that we're so profound in our ability to execute a simulation that must be what this is. And it's like, no, we still can't grasp it. You dummy. That's the way the Bible warns us to lean not on our own understanding. That's why I've gotten to a place where I'm okay not knowing everything. I've been chasing this information and chasing the truth since I was, the audience is going to roll their eyes because I say this all the time. But since I was 16 years old, and it took me a long time to realize that that it was all about Jesus. And after I got there, I was kind of, I think, gifted a deeper level of understanding. It took some time, but now I'm like, oh yeah, I understand why you don't lean on your own understanding. And that is because much like a person who tries to schedule every aspect of their life, well, life is going to throw a curveball at you. And why are you trying to schedule every single step of the way? It's because you're afraid. You're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of chaos, right? But the truth of the matter is, things are going to enter your life that are going to derail all your plans, and you're going to have to tango with that. And if you're not accustomed to doing it and you don't reside in faith, you're going to fall apart when that happens. It's the same thing as you want to be a numerologist, you want to be an alchemist, you want to be an astrologist, you want to try to harness these things that seem to be factual observations about the realm that we inhabit, and then you want to try to bend them to your will. Because why? Because you don't have faith, because you're afraid, so you have to try to control everything. It's the same exact energy. And the fact of the matter is, no matter how much you think you understand, you weren't there when it was formed, right? You weren't there when the building blocks were laid. You weren't there. Where were you 1,000 years ago when all of this was? You weren't born. You just got here 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and all of a sudden now you think that you want to be a ascended master. Yeah. And I just don't think it works well for them. I honestly don't think it works well for them. I think the closest thing you can be to an ascended master is you could admire the realm that we inhabit and all of its mystery, and you could even get so far in understanding some of that mystery, but some things are purposely beyond your grasp. And if you try to grasp them, they're going to drive you insane, and you're going to think that you exist in a plane where the demiurge is controlling everything and you're locked in hell. You're going to get so obsessed with this information, this knowledge, that you can't even see the beauty around you anymore. And you're somehow going to trick yourself because we're all, so I've gotten to this place now where I'm like, I'll look at whatever I am allowed to look at. And then if I feel myself butting up against something where I just don't understand, I just pull back now and I go, that's okay. It'll come to me in time or it won't. I don't need it to because I have faith and I know that God is real. God has a will. God has a plan. I'm part of that plan. What do I have to be worried about? And I think that they don't have that. And that sounds like a place. You know why? Because the elites are doing that, right? The elites are doing ceremony and ritual. They're planning things out by the stars. They're setting things up according to numerology. They're doing all these things. Sounds like a nightmare. Yeah. Sounds exhausting. Sounds absolutely miserable. So I don't envy them at all. I think they're actually gripped by fear at all times, and that's not what I need to be a part of.
Well, and fear, it lowers your intelligence. It ruins a lot of things. It's hard to grasp on things when you're trapped in fear. That's why they're constantly fear mongering in us. And I hate people. That's what I think you didn't say in so many words, but I'm the same way. I don't like people speaking in absolutes, because speaking in absolutes to me is an arrogant way and thinking that you know as much as God, when there's no way, bro. Like it's an impossible task for you to even fathom a thought. Like, what is a thought of God? Like, I couldn't even fathom what that even actually means. Right. And to like circle back to like the voice of God technology, I think this technology is also based on trying to push God away from us, right? Like, because it's like, oh, look, I can make this little tool that sounds like God, or that emulates God, or that can do this, and look how powerful I am. I think they're constantly trying to create weapons and manipulation tactics to be like, see, this is God, right? Like, and you're like, no, it's not, bro. I have more God in me than that damn technology, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have more God in you than this technology, because Jesus, he died for our sins for a reason, right? Like, a lot of people don't, they are fat. I think they think I'm like what's it called, as Gnostic, or like where I don't
agnostic, yeah.
yeah, or like, what's the other word?
Atheist?
Yeah, atheist. There we go. A lot of people think that of me because I like how I talk, and then they're surprised because I don't go to church. And I have nothing against church. Like, right, for me personally, I think everybody's journey is different. I don't know what my path compared to your path, right? Like, different things are going to be obstacles and our different tests, whatever that may be. But it's true that God is super important, man. I pray every night. I try to get understanding. One of the hardest things to do that I think that we don't always admit, that I'll admit, is giving my anxieties and fear to God. I tell him that I'm giving it to him. I say, yeah, here you go. But it doesn't work as well for me, right? On my end, he's keeping his part of the bargain. I'm not always keeping my part of the bargain. And that's what we need to do, is hold ourselves accountable. So we're like, hey, I can't expect God to do all this and fix my life. He's not a genie. He's not a lotto ticket to where it's like, hey, hey man, I'm trapped and I need $1 million. It's not how it works, right? I think though, with faith and with hard work and understanding, that we can get to the places we want to get to, and we don't have to worry about the voice of God technology taking over our lives, because I know what God sounds like, because it's in my heart. It's not in my ear. It's not in my mind. It's in my heart, and it can't change. It's in your soul. It's ingrained in your DNA. It's a different level. And I think going through these topics, a lot of times people call it blackpilling, or that we're fear mongering, or we're getting overboard. It's not. It's we're just exposing these people that are using cheap parlor tricks compared to God, right? Even witchcraft. Like, I know I remember a long time ago, an ex was like, I'm gonna throw a spell on you or whatever. And she was telling somebody else. She didn't tell me, but she told somebody they're gonna put a spell on me. I say, good luck, because my life is doing great. I don't know what she did, but it didn't work. Why? Because I have God in my life and I believe in him. And you can't beat that, bro. You can't do a sparkler to a grenade launcher, right? You can't do a nuke to a sparkler. That's a better analogy, even though nukes are faking, allegedly. I don't know. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not.
I think it's true. Well, listen, Sean, I want to bring it in for a landing here. For the audience, unfortunately, we lost Top. I got a message, and he said his computer just shut down on him, and now it's running an update. I think he's going to be freaking out. The dude is just inundated by tech issues. But this has been a wonderful conversation. A long time coming. I feel like we should have done it earlier, but I'm glad that it happened. And on 4th of July, so that's pretty cool. But
perfect.
I can't pull it up right now because I don't have access to it. Can you just let everybody know, Sean, where they can find your work?
No problem, man. Go to Kill the Mockingbirds podcast on Instagram, killthemockingbirds.com. It'll be coming back soon. And don't forget, on Tuesdays, check out Paranoid American on YouTube or Patreon. We got our series Under the Docs, where we explore different documentaries. The first about 15 or so have all been about conspiratorial ones. Right now we're in Alex Jones month, so it's all Alex Jones. So we're deep diving on old documentaries where we really kind of break it down, kind of Siskel and Ebert style, but with the conspiratorial aspect. Go all those places. And yeah, man, it's been a great time. Got to do it again. And man, God is good, right? And America.
Yeah, dude, I have a dope ass cat shirt. You know what's strange is, for whatever reason, if you go to Walmart and you try to buy an American shirt, none of them say America on it, or USA or anything. They all just have a theme. There you go, America. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Sean, for hanging out with us and shooting the. And say a prayer for Top, because I'm sure he's freaking the out right now.
And we're going after Ted Cruz on this. I know it's a Ted Cruz attack.
It's Ted Cruz. Shout out Ted Cruz, dude. Come to the Lord. Stop being a... guys, obey, submit, and comply. Peace out.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see. You can't. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger